The game Arknights has recently received a new operator as part of the New Year's anniversary, bringing in the character of Nine-Colour Deer, whom I've been waiting to be introduced for several months now. This character is one that has quite an interesting backstory, both in the game and in the real world. That's because Nine-Colour Deer is a collaboration character, which is not an unusual thing in gacha games. Her source material is the 1981 film A Deer of Nine Colours, produced by the Shanghai Animation Film Studio. It's a somewhat out-of-the-blue collaboration for a game in 2022, a 40-year-old film, but the root and origins of the character stretch even further back than that, all the way back to a story that likely existed as early as 200 BC. The in-game character's backstory and even some of her skills take direct inspiration from the tale and the film in equal measure. I'll endeavour to point them out as we go along. So, let's take a look at the inspiration for Nine-Colour Deer and discover the full origins, both in terms of the animation and in the legendary tale that inspired even that. Nine-Colour Deer's direct inspiration, as mentioned before, came from the film A Deer of Nine Colours. It's a short and sweet affair, not much longer than 25 minutes, and tells the tale of the eponymous creature going about assisting Persian travellers and merchants caught in a snowstorm. From there we see it save other animals, from squirrels to mice to the chicks of a bird, the latter of whom gives a special thanks. Eventually it saves a poor medicine seller of the Untouchable caste, who was drowning whilst out searching for medicinal herbs, but the deer implores him not to speak of its existence, having been warned by the bird about the evil nature of humans, but choosing to be cautious rather than avoid saving the man. As reports come back to the nearby city about the miraculous deer, the queen begins to dream of owning its hide, until she declares that unless she has it within 3 nights she will kill herself, leading to the king making a proclamation to hunt the deer down. The medicine seller, having remembered his experience with the deer, gives in to his greed and betrays the deer, leading the king's men and soldiers to where he met it. After a while of unsuccessful searching, for the deer is very good at hiding, he then pretends to drown to attract it in. Compelled by its own compassionate nature, the deer arrives, but when the king's men attempt to shoot it, it projects a halo of light that turns the arrows away and into dust, and forces the soldier and the king to humble themselves when it gives a speech about the importance of various virtues and not causing harm to others. The greedy man, on the other hand, who betrayed it, falls into a pond and drowns, assisted somewhat by the mother bird from earlier who pecks relentlessly at his head. As I said, it's somewhat short and sweet, but this animated version is itself based on a story of the same name from the Jakarta Tales, an ancient anthology of Buddhist stories chronicling some of the previous lives of the Buddha, before the one in which he attained true enlightenment. Almost invariably, whichever character was the previous reincarnation of the Buddha will guide a cast of characters who get into some manner of trouble. A Deer of Nine Colours is a tale focused around compassion. In some of the versions I read to make this video, the deer does not create a halo to protect itself, but instead speaks to the king directly about how the evil man was saved by it, only for the deer to be rewarded with cruelty. The king makes to kill the man, only for the deer to interpose itself between them and promise that there is no need to do so, because the man's bad deeds will earn their own reward. In all versions I know of, the speech of the deer and its actions turn the king towards compassion and virtue, in turn driving his people to do the same. Whilst the deer disappears, this important lesson about compassion remains. In even older variants of the tale, the deer has a hide of gold, silver antlers and jewels adorning its hide. This interpretation is, I think, the basis for this painting from Mogao Cave, which is even shown in the animation itself and the only animalized version of the Buddha depicted in the entire cave, itself a major Buddhist temple. This story has gone through quite an evolution as the story has gone on, from the original golden deer to the deer of 9 colours, to the animation and then to Arknights. With the story explained, let's take a look at the Arknights version of the 9-coloured deer. The character has quite obviously been anthropomorphized to better suit the setting of the game. but a number of the original design aspects are still present for us to enjoy, most notably perhaps the presence of these coloured crescents, which follow the same pattern along the flank of the animated deer. They also have the same eye colour, fittingly enough, and in 9-Colour Deer's Ascension art we have an additional small detail, in the form of this small bird, which is the same design as the mother bird from the animated film, who both warns the deer in the first place and brings them news that humans are hunting it. It's a small little feature that one probably wouldn't notice unless they've watched the animation, quite fittingly. 9-Colour Deer has a halo in her art and in-game, much like in the animation, and it's the same variety of halo often found in Buddhist art and depictions, hanging behind the head like a great ring. Also, in both her Ascension art and when her skills are activated in-game, this halo transforms into one ringed with flame, almost exactly like the one in the animation that transforms the arrows aimed its way into dust. The only part that is missing is the swirling mandala that we see in the film, but apart from that it's all there. Mentioning this flaming halo, it would be remiss of me not to mention that 9-Colour Deer gives allied units the shelter status effect, and can heal them through the use of its skills, just as the deer does in the animation. Speaking of these skills, they're both references as well. Fortune Bringer to the mortal realm, the deer's first skill, is calling back to how the deer brings good fortune and even salvation to others, whilst Return to the Immortal Mountain is a reference to how, at the end of the film, the deer climbs into the sky and mountains, never to be seen again. Now, let's listen to some of 9-Colour Deer's voice lines.
生命是无尽的轮回，自业自得果，众生皆如是。您经历了这么多，应该能理解吧？在不同的轮回中留下自己的记忆，构建自己对外界的看法，才是这一世的用意。
This one in particular is referring to the entire Buddhist cosmology, the cycle of birth, death and reincarnation that's called samsara, itself influenced by the karma generated by one's actions, both positive and negative. We also have this rather pointed one.
生命诚可贵，但卑鄙和邪恶的生命，终究要受到惩罚。
Which is similar to the speech given by the deer in the older version of the Jakarta tale, telling the king that the medicine seller's actions shall come back to him with time. Finally, looking at the in-game lore for 9-Colour Deer, we get a backstory that, whilst not directly that of the animation or the original Jakarta tale, bears some similarities. The character descends from the mountains of the country of Yan, aka Arknights' version of China, to provide medicinal herbs during a time of pestilence. However, despite her attempts to help others, the locals she is assisting allow their evil emotions to get the better of them, although this time it's not greed and instead fear and prejudice, and they blame the recent catastrophes upon her, forcing her to leave. Even in her side story, fittingly called Great Compassion, such themes prevail. I know this isn't my normal sort of content, but I've been hoping to branch out a bit recently after my somewhat long hiatus. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.